Hello, everybody. It is time for the 18th episode of Get the Flick Out of Here. I am your host, Alex Pawlowski. With me, as always, is Kate Elizabeth. I am operating at a deficit today. I'm at the bottom, hopefully, the bottom. Will be able to work my way back out of the cold from heck. And it just doesn't seem to want to go away. The symptoms hop back and forth. Woke up this morning with a sore throat that went away after I had some breakfast. It's still all up here. And also, I have this wonderful AM radio DJ voice.
I was gonna say, is this
Welcome
Alex
to
Pawlowski?
Welcome to
Or
Quiet Storm.
Alex, you don't sound like yourself, but you don't not sound like yourself. Right. You sound like a cloned version of yourself, Alex.
It's possible that I sound like almost like myself, but also like, I don't know, the more masculine version of myself who talks like this.
It's true.
Maybe does better at construction or things like that. Also, somewhere there's a version of myself who's very helpful around the house and likes to cook.
Yes,
my feminine side comes out. Maybe that person's out there. Maybe if I have a different kind of cold, that person will show up. But who knows? We're talking about Multiplicity.
We are.
Last week, Kate got to pick her own high concept mid to late 90s comedy featuring a performance that barely keeps it afloat. So I said, why don't I get to pick one of those? A high concept mid to late 90s comedy with one performance, technically four performances, that keep the movie afloat and just barely. This movie stars Michael Keaton. Four versions of Michael Keaton, but if you haven't seen it, we'll get to that. I saw this in the theaters in 1996 at the age of 17 or whatever. And I loved it because I loved Michael Keaton. Like Michael Keaton and I have a very, very, very strong relationship with Michael Keaton. I'm wearing a T-shirt taking off of his Batman films. There he is down there. That's where Michael Keaton is. But he's also taking off of Beetlejuice. If you asked 12 to 15-year-old me, name your two favorite movies ever made, I would say the original Tim Burton, Michael Keaton Batman, and Beetlejuice. Pick an order, but those are my two films that I was like I would watch forever and ever and ever. And I was like, what's the common thread? Well, Tim Burton, and it wasn't really about Tim Burton. It was about Michael Keaton because I was like, this guy's amazing. Like I couldn't believe that he was doing both of those things, like Beetlejuice and Batman, Bruce Wayne. I was like, this guy's the greatest actor in the world. I still think he's one of the most underrated actors that we've had in Hollywood in a very, very long time. So as you tell me, oh, hey, here's this crazy comedy where we get to see Michael Keaton play four versions of Michael Keaton. Sign me up. I'll go plunk down my $3 to go see a matinee on a Saturday. And that's what I did, and I loved it. And it is one of those things where I probably over the next decade, I probably saw it another 3 or 4 more times. Like I would like, oh, you love Michael Keaton? Like find somebody else who's a Michael Keaton fan among my theater kid friends. I'm like, you haven't seen Multiplicity? You gotta see Multiplicity. And then we'd sit down and watch it, or it would come on cable, and I'd be like, you know what, this is a good movie. I'm gonna sit and watch 40 minutes of this movie, but I probably haven't watched it in like 15 years. But I was feeling under the weather, still am, but back over the weekend, and I said, you know what I need? I need some comfort food in the form of a movie. I want to watch this. Also, I happened to find my DVD copy of the film in the basement when I was cleaning up the flood that came in. We had torrential downpour. We realized, oh, hey, the seal around one of those basement windows in our house just isn't there anymore, and just like a straight, like a fountain of water coming through the thing at us. So we're gonna have to get that resealed. But when you're sick, cleaning up a flooding basement is not the thing you want to be doing. So I happened to be moving boxes away from the onslaught of water and came across this DVD of Multiplicity. I took a picture of it. I said, Kate, we're watching this. I sent it to you, and I said, this is what we're watching.
And I said, buddy, I chose Blast from the Past last week. We get to do whatever you want this week.
It's one of those things where I feel a little sad because it's not as good as I remember it. And the reason is because it had been 15 years. I only remembered the good parts. You know what I mean? And it's one of those things because I love Michael Keaton so much. I remember a lot of the stuff that happened with it, but there's a lot of other stuff peripherally that I just completely forgot about. I was like, oh, well, this does drag the movie down. The budget was $45 million, and it only made $21 million at the box office. It was a huge bomb. It came out during the height of the 1986 Summer Olympics. People were at home watching Carrie Strug break her ankle. So like there was also like the Atlanta, the Olympic bombing. Everyone's sitting at home watching CNN, figuring out what the hell's going on with that. Like nobody's at the movies, except for it came out right between Independence Day and The Nutty Professor. So if you're going to the movies, if you happen to be going to the movies, I mean, the Olympics are happening, but you don't want to watch rhythmic gymnastics or whatever, you're saying to yourself, I'm going to go to the movies. What am I going to see? Independence Day, Nutty Professor, or multiplication tables? I hate math. I'm not going to see that. I don't like math. So it was really put in a really bad place. And I've been wondering, like, if they had just released it in, I don't know, October or April, like it would have done better and have been seen by more people. I feel like this is a movie that if more people saw it, it would have more of a history to it, because the artistry with which they made the film, especially for the time period it came out, was basically seamless. Like, we'll talk about it, but like the Harold Ramis, who directed Groundhog Day and was Egon in the Ghostbusters, directs this, and you have to have such a deft touch to be able to direct all the scenes, like in some cases 4 different times, the same scene, to place everybody where they need to be. Because at one point, like, they're all sitting on the same couch. I don't even know how you do that with like I know like split screen, but how do you split 4 different ways? Like, it's all green screen stuff, but it's really, really well done for the time period. And so obviously that's what the budget was for, because you had to film everything 4 times. There's no special effects except for how do we put 4 Michael Keatons on screen at the same time? There's
the one special effect is the movie. So it's not like oh, we use CGI to make this explosion look cool. Like, it's so integrated into the actual story of the movie that it's not like enhancement effects. It's the story of the movie is the special effect. So it has to work. All 4 of them sitting on the couch has to look like all 4 of them are sitting on the couch, and not 4 guys in different shots were sitting on the couch. And I also think Michael Keaton, to your point, deserves a ton of credit for making all 4 of these versions of himself feel like different versions of himself.
Right.
But like that's a really tricky thing, because you have to have the same fundamental base of the guy with these deviations, right? So to strike that balance, 3 times, and then there's one that is just out to lunch all the time mentally, which is a fun, completely different performance. I think is an impressive feat. And unlike Blast from the Past last week, I think it has way more legs because of the differentiation we get. Whereas Brendan Fraser was one dude who who was able to, as you were saying, he was like bobbing up to the surface, making it good, and then would get dragged down. Like, because of what this was, he ate up way more oxygen in this movie, and I think it was a much better watch because of that.
There is no scene in which Michael Keaton does not appear in this movie.
Yeah.
There's not a scene between his wife and his coworker, or like that never
his
happened.
Wife and his kids without him isn't a thing. Yeah.
He has to carry literally every scene. At least one version of him sometimes he has to carry a scene having a conversation with himself and himself and himself. I mean, like as a guy who trained acting for a while, I can't even imagine how you would, like, that would take so much time to like recognize. Okay, so when I did this morning as Michael Keaton 1, this is how it was said. So Michael Keaton 2 will react in this way to what was said. If you react in the wrong way, if you're not listening specifically to the recording of yourself saying the first thing, then your reaction could be all wrong. The tone of it, all that kind of stuff, the way that you react physically to the thing that somebody said. It's all, everything about acting, especially on film, is in the moment, reacting to what has just been said to you. If what has just been said to you has been said to you by you, but recorded 7 hours ago, like, that's just crazy. Like, it's a friggin' magic trick how he's able to do so well in this film.
And on top of that, to me, what's so impressive is it's not like he's a completely different version or the completely same version of himself to map. So it's not like, oh, I'm reacting under this completely different set of circumstances of who I am, or these exact same circumstances of who I am. It's one foot in each world. So to make that translate, I feel like is just the wackiest challenge of all, of like, this is me, but I have all these other traits that I have to incorporate, but I have the same knowledge and history as this other guy. Like, that is a wild acting challenge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really is. And I think that in order to make it, I think, actually easier, is you make these characters diverge in increasingly stereotypical ways.
Yes.
I think that might be where the film loses a little bit of things, because in order for the audience to be like, I know which one that is.
Yes.
Like, there are 4 of them. I know which one that is. That one is the blank one. And because you can just like compartmentalize into certain things, that makes it easier for the audience to get. I would actually love to see it where it was like they were much closer to number 1, all 4 of them, because then it would be like, it'd be harder to see. You could see the nuances of like how, oh, no, I'm exactly who you are, except while you were over there golfing, this thing happened to me, which changed my trajectory and how I view the world, as opposed to, okay, so I'm super macho. That one's probably gay, and that one, well, he's basically a 3-year-old. And so, like, we'll talk more about how this whole thing works, but it becomes a little bit more pat to be able just to sit there and go, these are all stereotypes. We can move on from there. Although he plays all of them with a kind of honesty and nuance, and it doesn't feel like a stereotype, even though the movie says this is a stereotype. When Keaton plays it, it doesn't feel like it is, and that's really interesting.
There is a sincerity there, and I agree with you in that we only get to see the graduation of someone leaning more stereotypical with clone number 2. Right. Or with the first clone with character number 2. Like, we kind of see him start to deviate, and then it takes a hard turn into the direction of macho dude, but we don't really get why. It does feel like it would be cool if he was more like a tofu clone, where he was picking up, like if we saw him on the construction site picking up this macho behavior or whatever, but it just kind of spits out these archetypes, to your point.
like a tofu clone.
Yeah.
I think that's a fantastic way of putting it.
Thank you.
By the way, don't be alarmed. I have here a strawberry banana smoothie with extra vitamin C that I'm just trying to ingest throughout the whole thing. In case you see a wayward straw enter my mouth.
I have this gallon of water that I'm trying to work my way through.
Keep chugging. It says keep chugging.
It does. I named her Galeen because she's like this whole other entity, and she's a gallon of water.
So here we go. His name is Doug. And the first time we see him, he pulls up to a job site because he is a construction foreman. Now, I had forgotten a lot of the details about his work life. I thought he owned his own contracting company. He works for a contractor as a foreman, as one of several foremen who work for him, who manages job sites. He shows up at a job site, and Eugene Levy, who we've talked about in Stay Tuned, and is always delightful and everything, but also plays the same character in all the 90s movies, except for American Pie. But he's basically the same character in this that he was in Stay Tuned, which is just a sleazy dude who smokes cigars. And that's fine, because he's really good at it, and I won't judge him for it.
It's so funny that because he's in that like Christopher Guest troupe of all the documentaries, where he is so different and weird in every one of those, that for him to be typecast as this, which isn't at all what you see in Waiting for Kaufman or Best in Show, is like, that is just a credit to Eugene Levy, I feel like. But this was a very funny beginning to the movie, and I was like, wow, he really was the side character in a lot of little wacky movies.
But he shows up, and he's like, because Eugene Levy is apparently managing the job site while Michael Keaton is away. So Doug Kinney shows up, and he says, "Hey Vic, what's going on? Hey, we demoed the driveway. Yeah, you did a good job of it too. Problem is, it's the wrong driveway." And then Michael Keaton gets to do his great, like, very exasperated Kermit arms that I love that he does so much. And he gets to say, you demoed the neighbor's driveway. It's supposed to be that one, not this one. And so he's very mad at him, but he says he'll eat all the cost because Vic, I'm very short on cash right now. I can't take this hit. So he's going to make sure it all works. And he gets in trouble with the guy who owns Doug does, because Doug wasn't there. Because Doug is managing at least 2, maybe 3 different job sites. So he wasn't there to be able to tell Vic, who's an idiot, not to demo this driveway. You got to demo that driveway.
Well, Alex, it's not like he can be in 2 places at once.
See, the whole thing is that he wanted to be, but he had to work. He has to work late. So he when he gets home, he's got 2 kids, Zach and Jennifer. I want to say Zach is the older and Jennifer is the younger.
Just like the whitest 90s names. Just
wonderful.
Perfect.
And so that his wife, Laura, played by Andy McDowell, long-suffering wife, who stay-at-home mom, and he gets in trouble for missing his daughter's graduation from Campfire Girls. That's what it is. And he feels bad about it, but like if he didn't work late, he would have been fired. Like a different guy who got fired, who was like his coworker, like basically the same level as him, got fired for doing shoddy work. And hey, good for you, Doug Kinney. You get to manage all of his job projects now as well, but you don't get a bump in pay.
No.
You're just spreading you even thinner, and you'll see even less of your family.
Ugh, the man, am I right?
No, you can't get away from the man is keeping him down.
It was at this point in the movie that I was like, I feel like go look for a job at a different construction company.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if your options are undergo a very experimental cloning procedure, or start sending out your resume to other contracting companies, I would go with the latter but that's just me. He's got a guy who he works with, played by John Delancey, who people might know as Q from Star Trek: The Next Generation. And he's like a kiss ass and a smarmy guy who likes to make sure that Doug keeps is not looked at by Dell, who owns the whole thing, the guy who owns the whole thing, as the top guy, because Ted wants to be that. So there's
my
that
favorite line in this little exchange is, where I used to work, they said, if you're not coming in on Saturday, don't bother coming in on Sunday.
Yeah.
Oh, Ted. Work-life balance, Ted.
No, he doesn't have one, because I'm sure Ted doesn't have a kid.
Or a clone.
Wife, or a clone. But I love, there was a scene I really loved that, like, after everybody had gone to bed, Doug does the thing that men do in the 1990s, which is he hooks up the camcorder to the TV and watches the home movie of his little girl graduating from Campfire Girls. And it's very affecting to like watch him realize that he missed it. And it's a big moment for her, even though in the grand scheme of things, it's really nothing. But like for his daughter, it was a huge thing, and he promised he would be there, and he wasn't able to be there, and he feels really bad about it. And I think that this scene is necessary to show why he has to do the cloning thing, at least why he believes it is, because he's missing everything. Like he's missing his little girl growing up, and as a guy who's got a little girl, like that, I can only imagine what that would feel like to those things, knowing that you're letting them down and all that kind of stuff. I get all that. And he obviously really loves his wife, Andie MacDowell. They have a very good relationship, even though, she's disappointed that he's not able to be there, but she understands that like that's, otherwise they don't have a house, And I thought this was all very, very good, but he goes to manage a job site in Malibu where they are working on a science place, a research institute, I guess. And the whole thing goes completely kaput. Like the job is way behind schedule, and he goes into the basement because there's a huge plumbing leak. And he's like, "What are you doing? Come on, I'll fix it." And he makes it worse. And so he gets very, very angry. Doug has anger issues.
He's very, very stressed all the time. In fact, so Andie MacDowell gets contacted by a former friend about going back to work.
That's right.
Too. And she was like, I think it's doable if you can help out when there's an emergency. And he very dramatically says, my whole life is an emergency. And then he apologizes for flying off the handle, but he is constantly stressed, as we learn here in this scene as well. He's flying off the handle at home. Here he is on the job, just so stressed out. Like, I would just start looking for, especially early 90s, the economy was all right. Like, he could have found a job at a different place.
Yes. As they say, he's been a foreman for 10 years, which means like, he would have options. There's not one construction company in Los Angeles.
In Los Angeles, of all places.
Yeah. But so anyway, I forgot this. That scene happens before I thought it did, where she was contacted by somebody she used to work with to go back into the real estate business, because that's what she was doing before they had kids. And they always said when the kids were in school, she'd get to go back to work. But apparently that's, not possible because of all the extracurriculars, I guess, the kids have. They all have to be picked up at 3 and taken places. Whatever. I'm sure I'll be doing a lot of that soon myself.
Oh my God, we're gonna need to clone you.
We're gonna have to do that.
We're gonna have NXT, Alex. We're gonna
and they'll be wildly divergent.
Yes, of course.
Yes. So he loses it and smashes a whole bunch of scaffolding with a hammer because he's so angry about the plumbing problem. And the plumbing also, I love this little detail. The plumbing flood destroyed all the blueprints. You know, it's 1995. That shit's not on a tablet.
Of course.
Like, it's all printed out. And so he's trying to dry them out, and they just disintegrated his hands. He's so angry. And so this kindly old man walks up to him, played by Harris Yulin, a very great comedic character actor, and he says, "Maybe I can help." I don't know what you think. What do you do for fun? I like to golf. I haven't done that in ever. I never get to do that. Well, I can help you. I can help you. I have time. And he explains to him that he has he can, here's my number, you call me, I can give you time or whatever, you know? And so we smash cut to Doug in his office. So apparently this is a different day. He's wearing a different outfit. And so he's there. So it was that was kind of confusing to me, but he's laying there like he's on a psychiatrist's couch, and he's going through all his problems. I don't know. Does that sound crazy? I don't know. I'm not a psychiatrist. But I thought that was a good thing. Like, oh, wait a minute, what do you do?
Because earlier when he was talking to Andy McDowell, they had said, like, we don't need more time. We need a miracle or something. Mm-hmm. And then this scientist research guy just very vaguely says that he creates miracles.
That's right.
So, like, the vagueness of not going what's on paired with this, like, I'm at a psychiatrist's office and he's not a psychiatrist, I thought was actually really cute and fun.
Yeah. So he says, I create clones. First I cloned, I don't know what it was, a tadpole or something. Then I cloned a bug. God bless you, sir, he says. So great. I cloned a rat, and then finally a chimp. And then in walks another Harris Yulin, who's like wearing who's wearing a Hawaiian shirt and sunglasses, shorts, like he's been out at the beach. And this proves to Michael Keaton that apparently this works. And how much would that cost? And they never ever bring that up. Like, they never answer that question. If money is so tight and he's always got to be working, how much does it cost? I thought for some reason I remember it being like, oh no, but I need to run this experiment on as many people as possible, so I can have as many like case studies as possible. So when I present this to the government to like solve everything, then we'll have this. Here's the other thing: if you can clone anything from like an amoeba to a human, like, could we clone enough things that people could eat all over the world? Or is it just so Doug can golf while Doug 2 goes to work and Doug 3 takes the kids to soccer practice? Is that really the thing we need to be doing? I think it was kind of a funny thing that, like, what a wonderful, like, rich white guy thing to do. Like, well, this way I could go to the beach while I take a meeting with a potential client. We're not going to solve any actual problems. Heavens forbid. We're just gonna solve my problems and only my problems, and that'll be it.
This was a very white movie too. I don't think there was a single.
There was one guy who worked on. There was one guy who worked on Doug's construction crew, who was like the assistant foreman,
right?
Guy, and that's about it.
That is it. So that was something that I kind of had forgiveness around, of like, if they're in the case study phase, maybe, you know, we're not seeing what this is going to be used for the greater good part of it. My bigger issue was Doug just not being nearly skeptical enough before deciding to do this. Evaluating no other solutions to the problem that they have. And very easily being persuaded to get cloned.
Yeah, I guess I remembered it being free because I thought maybe that would persuade Doug to do it. Well, if I don't have to pay for it, yeah, let's give it a shot. But they seem to be saying that like it actually costs money. But anyway.
Well, and by the time we get to Doug number 4, they say we got a deal on.
We got a deal on him. So anyway, so they do the whole process. There's, by the way, there's lab assistants, at least 3 of them that are identical. They actually got triplets. I think that's really cool. They got triplets to play 3 different lab assistants, so which also further proves that they've done this many times.
Right.
And so he goes under for the procedure, which the procedure could not be more mid-90s like bullshit science possible. Like, let's create a mold of your face. Oops, a clone. It's like, I don't think that's all. Like he says, I'm a geneticist. No, genetics would mean that we would take your blood, we would extract the DNA, and we would create a clone of you that would then have to grow. We could create baby Doug. We could create an embryo that is your genetic clone.
It is,
and then that embryo would have to gestate, be born, and grow to, by the time you are a grandfather, you will have a man who is your own your age now. No, it's just a straight up carbon copy of you. I don't know how you're going to have to do more to explain how that science might work.
Also, a geneticist that somehow managed to also transfer the life experiences of Doug.
Yes. Yeah, it's because yes, all that stuff the same thing. It's yeah. So when you come out, you have all the same memories and life experiences up until the point you got cloned, and then anything else is different. So I did like the little thing of so he said, hey, so Doc, he comes out of the from under the anesthesia, and he's like, hey Doc, did it work? And he sits up, and there's another Michael Keaton. He's go, wow, it worked. You're my clone. No, you're my clone. And so I like that they're like they have this whole thing of like, they're so identical they don't even recognize which one's the clone. But written behind his ear is the number 2, which I mean, I guess it's behind your ear, but I don't know. Maybe if you're like standing behind somebody, like, hey, it's a weird tattoo. Why are you number 2? I don't know what to say. But anyway, this is the beginning of the whole thing where Doug number 2 is going to go to work, do all the construction stuff, and Doug number 1 can take the kids to do stuff. Like he's at the kids. He's at Zach's football game, and he winds up being Zach's football coach for that game and that game only, because the coach quits. It's like, I quit. I'm not doing this anymore. You do it. And then later we see Zach say, Zach was our coach. We did great. We actually scored. And that's it. Like, it's not like he's the coach for the rest of the season. I don't know what happens after that, but it was a cute little scene, I suppose.
The coach was also everybody is extremely stressed in this movie. The coach, who's also a lawyer, doesn't need this. I do want to circle back because I think it's important to note too that alternate Doug lives in their, like, above their garage, which feels like a dumb and risky move. In case Andy McDowell ever had to go up there for anything or would see him leave the house. But they do have this really funny scene. They do. Michael Keaton with himself has this very funny moment where they kind of delineate who's going to do what. And they're like, and we're going to crush Ted, the guy at work. And then chest bump. They're like, yeah, we're going to crush Ted. And they like chest bump, which is adorable. So I don't know. I thought that was really, really fun. But I do think it was very stupid to have Doug number 2 just living on the premises.
Yeah, it would be one thing if they, like, I don't know, if they had a nearby hotel he could stay at or something. Yeah. Or I guess that would cost a bunch of money.
Doug could stay with a friend. Like, there's so many other possible options, but the idea that he would be leaving in the morning and coming back and nobody would notice.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
Not great.
The in-law suite that is above the garage, because while looking for houses a few months ago, I learned that's the terminology for that. When there's like a basement apartment with a kitchenette in there, or whatever, or above the garage, that's called a mother-in-law suite, which is like, it was so great because like my mother-in-law has to move in. We're putting her out above the garage. Like, it's just a wonderful old-timey like honeymooners type thing to do to your mother-in-law. So yeah, so they say like that they show it. There's just crap everywhere. They're not even actually using it as anything. It's just storage, and it's all Michael Keaton's old stuff. Like, it's this like, hey, I found this old leather jacket. I love this jacket. What happened? I had no idea this jacket was even up here. He puts it on. It becomes like number 2's jacket, which I thought was a kind of way of also cool to delineate who was who. So we see Doug is out golfing, and he can't keep golfing because the wife calls Doug 2 at the job site and says, you need to leave the job site and go pick up your daughter from school, because she's got to go home, change into her ballerina outfit, and go to ballet to get ballet pictures done. But he can't leave the job site because he can't leave the job site. It's like, this is a very important thing that's happened. Eugene Levy showed up late with all the concrete to pour, and so he can't leave the job site, but he's got to leave the job site. So he calls Doug 1 to go pick up the daughter from school and get her to ballet pictures by 4:30. The dad, like, I question how much Doug 1 ever did anything around the house.
Correct.
Like, ever, because he is at a loss on how to dress his own daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think he ever did any, like, even when like the kid was a baby, I think he did nothing. I don't think he did anything. I think he was never a good father. I think you're a bad father. That's what I think.
I also feel like if Doug can't get more assistance to help out with his workload to the point where he needs to be cloned, can you maybe get somebody more competent than, say, a Eugene Levy, who keeps screwing up to the point where he can't even leave the site for like a minute to go pick up his daughter? But yeah, the archetype of the super mom, and the dad who just does nothing, as you pointed out,
yes,
is something that I'm glad died out.
Yeah.
Like, post kind of this era. I feel like everybody got like very sick of it.
Yeah. She just says, put her in the outfit I laid out, mousse her hair, she'll show you how. Also, that kid was no help in showing him how to mousse her hair.
No.
Like, I honestly, like, I think he was hoping for a little bit more assistance with the moussing, and that just didn't happen.
No.
Also,
nobody mousses their hair anymore. That's also a really fun like 90s thing, I think.
Yeah. So they get all the way to the ballet studio to do pictures, and are told, "Oh no, did nobody tell you the pictures are been moved to tomorrow?" And like, no, I'm not doing it tomorrow. I'm here now with the kid to the picture. Get a photographer down here right now.
So we have Doug 1 is on the golf course, Doug 2 calling him. Right. I thought was a fun scene because even Doug 2 on the phone with Andy McDowell is like, yeah, I got it all. Like, it just doesn't care at all. And he calls Doug 1 and is like, you gotta go pick up your kids, and something about pictures. Like, it was just, we start to see the deviation here of Doug 2 leading into this like macho side. And also Doug 1 getting the phone call while he's at the top of his backswing for the first time ever being able to golf was just like a very 90s classic but fun thing. I thought that was
Yeah.
a really cute detail.
The other thing that now we cut to. Oh, the reason why Andy McDowell says you got to pick up the kids is that I have to stay late at work doing real estate, because once he has the clone, he tells her, go ahead, go back to work. It'll be great. Have fun. It'll be fine. Don't worry about it. So she's at work showing a house. So that's why she can't get away to pick up the kid. But later, they're at a fancy restaurant to have a romantic dinner together. And I wondered who's babysitting the children.
Yeah.
I guess, I mean, like, if you could get somebody to babysit the kids, that just do that more often. Like, if you have somebody, like, do you trust the person to pick up the child? I mean, is it a family friend? Is it just somebody you know from the neighborhood? There are many times where they are away from the children, and I don't know what the children are doing, and it does feel like a lot about
a full-time babysitter would probably solve not needing to clone an entire person.
Right. If your nanny costs more than cloning yourself, I think the nanny's charging too much.
Yeah, but, and you now have a second income with Andy McDowell bringing in money.
There you go. Anyway, she says, "Oh, I'm sorry. You know, I was with this couple who can only see the houses after 5, and they always want to keep some of them the same house. I'm so sorry." And then Michael Keaton's like, "Hey, anyway, so you got to quit your job because I was prevented from playing golf once, so you have to quit your job and come back home." And I'm like, I really want to root for you, Michael Keaton, but sometimes you're such a dick. I was prevented from playing golf once earlier today, and now you have to quit your job and being a real estate agent and come back home. Is not the thing that I think there needed to be more things compounding for him to like go completely nuclear and say, blow the whole thing up. You're coming back home. I get like
it felt like there was an extra half hour of this movie that got left on the cutting room floor or something.
Yeah.
Look, this was a very jarring left turn, I would say.
I forgot all about the scene where Michael Keaton 2 is at the office at 6 a.m, getting everything ready for the whole day.
Killing it.
And everyone's like, hey, conference room, 5 minutes. Let's get everything ready to go so we know what we're doing today. And he's like leading everything. And Dell, the owner's like, find out what he had for breakfast. And all that kind of stuff. And then Michael Keaton 1 shows up. Now, this is the other thing. We didn't know which one was which because we're early enough in the movie. We didn't know. We thought Michael Keaton 1 was at work, getting a head start because now he's got more time. Michael Keaton 1 shows up, and the office manager lady, Noreen, is like, wait, I thought you were in the conference room. No, why would it be? Am I in the conference room? Like, there's this really great moment of him recognizing, holy shit, my clone is here. What do I do about that? He's able to smooth everything out in a certain way, in a funny way. Hey, yeah, I am wearing a different shirt. You know why? Because I spilled coffee on it. And that's, I have a different shirt, in my truck, just in case, I spill coffee on it. And that's what I did. I went out, I changed my shirt, but I'm going to go back out to my truck now. You won't see me again, except for in the original shirt, which I had cleaned, and that's totally fine now.
She also fills in a gap for him. This was so subtle and fun, but she fills in this gap for him and is like, well, I was in the bathroom, and he goes, perfect. It's so, like, adorably done.
Anyway, that is, so then he actually is able to call number 2 on the phone, and number 2's like, no, I've done everything. I went to I'm going to the Palisades thing. I'm going to the Hollywood thing. I already did Malibu. Like, I did all the stuff. So what am I supposed to do? I don't know, man. Live it up. Isn't that why you got me to do all this stuff?
Doug too is so perfectly dismissive too. He's just like, no, I already did it. All right. I don't know. Like he's perfectly like just dismissing everybody else's concerns. He's laser focused on getting the work done.
So anyway, that's why he thinks he can go golfing. And he really wants to go golfing. He can't go golfing once, as we've discussed. So then he says to his wife, sorry, you gotta go back home. So she's really pissed at him for pulling this on her, sabotaging their awesome date night they were gonna have.
Yeah.
And this is when Michael Keaton 1 looks over and sees Michael Keaton 2 on a date with the office manager lady, Noreen. Because
good.
I guess Michael Keaton 2 has needs and they can't be fulfilled by Andy McDowell because that would be like cheating.
Very clearly it was laid out that Doug 2 does not have marital relations with Andy McDowell in this.
So he's there at this. Like, this is the thing, is like, it's so funny because this is a side of Michael Keaton. And if this person was always inside the original Michael Keaton, that dude's a bad dude. Because he was like, yeah, we're going to get divorced. We're separated. I've been staying in the guest house for a month. It's terrible. I don't know what I'm going to do. It's terrible. So, do you want to go to my place? Yeah, I think I do. So they have to run into each other and yell at each other about everything, both the Michael Keatons, and then they wind up having to switch, which nothing's ever actually explained about, like how Michael Keaton 1 avoids sleeping with the office manager lady. Like, it's just this weird thing. Like, I'll drop you off and I'll leave. That scene's never there. But he winds up back at the house and talking to the he winds up having to lecture Michael Keaton 2 about, listen, we can't do this. You can't go to the same restaurants that I go to. That's not a thing. We can't do that anymore. Also,
in the restaurant, we do get a little bit. He was like, "What are you doing here? It's my favorite restaurant." And he goes, "Mine too."
Right.
It's so good.
Yeah. So Lance is Lance. He calls himself Lance later. Number 2 is always busy at work. So he goes up to the thing. It's like he starts talking to the guy who's sitting there watching TV, drinking a beer in his underwear, as you do. He says, "Number 2, I'd like you to be 3." And then walks in a third one. And Michael Keaton does the very best double takes of anybody on the planet. He's just sitting there drinking his beer. "Hi, how you doing?" Like, it's just the greatest. Like, he does the greatest double takes. I love Michael Keaton so much. Like, are you nuts? Are you like mentally nuts? Which is a wonderful way to put crazy. Mentally nuts I don't know how else you would be nuts. But it's like, no, it's great. He's going to help around the house, and you can go to work, and then I can do whatever I want to. Because that's the most important thing. Me is most important, says Doug Kinney. What a great dude. But it is the thing about it is that you could say, as soon as the first clone came out of Michael Keaton, they were the same guy. And then over the course of several weeks, he got more and more macho kind of a dude. As soon as clone number 2, meaning Michael Keaton number 3, came out of Michael Keaton, he was a completely different person.
Yeah.
Like, I think this is actually very good for everybody. I do. I tried to equate it as Felix and Oscar from The Odd Couple. Like, this guy is an absolute Felix. He's not gay. He's just more feminine side. He likes to cook and clean and all this kind of stuff. Very fastidious. But he's completely different from Doug in every way possible, like, personality wise.
No scene saying, "Hey, can you make this guy?" Like, we don't see him get cloned, so we don't see like, "Hey, geneticist who doesn't use genealogy to create clones, can you program him to be this way?" Because again, they're exactly the same up until this point, right? So hypothetically, this third one should actually be closer to the macho guy,
right?
Macho Doug,
right?
He's the opposite.
It would be interesting. It's like so. I I need another one to help me out around the house, help Laura, help with the kids, help with the cooking and cleaning. And then geneticist guy gets it into his head to slightly alter the genetic code to change his personality. Because I will help you by doing that. I have this idea. Oh, great. And that's why the one that comes out is completely different than the other ones, because he switched slightly the genetic code to alter his personality. That would explain everything and make everything so much better. But of course, they didn't do that. But this is where you start to have 3 Michael Keatons in scenes at all times, it's all over the place. It's also where the whole thing starts to fall apart for Andy McDowell. And where I think that the script kind of needs something else, because she starts to look really stupid, and it's not her fault. It's the situation and her not questioning it enough. Like at some point later, she's like, "Weren't you wearing a different shirt?" And it's like, oh, I'm losing it. And then she was like, but she should be also like, also, aren't you an entirely different person than you were 5 minutes ago? Like, she should have her husband committed. Like, he's completely different. And so her having to ignore that a lot also, it doesn't make, it makes her seem kind of like off as well. And that doesn't.
They're both pretty dumb. Like,
yeah.
He just willingly signed up to be cloned without really questioning anything. She's just willingly accepting that, like, he's in a weird mood today all the time.
Right.
But we do get the scene that you're talking about, which I loved, of, weren't you wearing a different shirt? And she does at least say, like, I'm losing it or whatever. And then Zach, their son, walks in and is doing something with a yo-yo, I think.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'll teach you how to do, like, the walk the dog trick. And he was like, you just showed me that before dinner. And he was like, of course I did.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
So we're just swapping dogs all over the place. But you're right in that it loses, it can't be contained anymore at this point, I think.
So there's more, just hijinks and stuff, and the Nice Clone 3. It's like, you take some time for you. I'll drop the kids off at school. It's like, oh, okay. But
then Michael Keaton plays, like, so authentically.
Yes.
Like, this is not a parody of an effeminate guy or someone that you would, like, assume is gay. Like, he plays it super, like, this is a guy who these traits are forward on. And it's completely opposite to the last one. Like, he does a really, really, really good job with this.
Right. And I wonder how much of the audience that did see this film in 1996 goes, man, that guy is so gay.
Oh, of course.
You know what I mean? And I feel like that's the problem, is that, like, I think it is very nuanced, but it would read to an audience in the mid-90s as just, like, way out there, which is unfortunate.
Which they compound by him not having a problem with not sleeping with Andy McDowell, too.
Right. Like, he does, but that's the problem. So here we go. Here's the rule. The rule is, rule number 1, you never, Laura is off limits. No, can't do it. So they're like, okay, yeah. That makes perfect sense. That reads you loud and clear. But one night, and I can't remember what song it was playing, but it was, like, so perfectly picked as the song that was playing, way too loud, coming from a stereo system in the in-law suite, and it wakes up Doug, and he goes out. And the fact that I love that these two scenes are the same scene. The first scene is he goes out there, and number 2 is, like, grinding on some, chick they met at the bar. And number 3 is sitting on the couch, like, having to bite a blanket because he's so horny, I guess, but not doing anything with his girl who's sitting right next to him.
Yeah.
And because Laura's off limits, they had to go find their own girls. But then the other Doug, the first one, comes in and says, "What are you doing? What's going on?" And the girls are going, "Oh my God, there's another one." And so he's like, he breaks up the party. "Sorry, girls, you got to go, leave." And they don't want to go, so they make a fuss about it. But they finally go. And so he is like, "You can't do this kind of stuff. What's going on?" We're like, what's this? Lance, Rico, bye, Lance, Rico. Wait, Lance and Rico. Let me guess, you're Rico, pointing to the macho ones. I guess again, buddy. So I just love that he calls himself Rico, the third one, the effeminate one. So Doug has finished giving them the lecture, and then he notices in the back of the room another Michael Keaton, who's because when they come out of the cloning process, obviously they're nude, and they're given the same set of clothes every time to go home in, which is a pair of like simple tan khakis and a button-down shirt, and it's perfect for Lance and Rico. But this other guy, it's got stains all over it. Half it's tucked in. It's buttoned wrong. And he is he's special. Let's just say that. There's a different word they would have used for it back in the day. Not going to use that word.
And they didn't use that word either.
No, they didn't use that word either, which is very good. And the reason they say this is because they went to Dr. Leeds, that's his name, and they got a clone made from 2. But because you make a copy of a copy, it's not as sharp as, the original, which I think is a wonderful line that explains the whole thing. Because you make a copy of a copy, it's not going to look as nice as the original.
Yeah, like on a copier, if you remember copiers.
Right, exactly, which is a big thing. So says Leeds loved it. He thought it was very experimental. So like this is a test subject. This is why they got a great deal on him. And this is the way that they can help with. They're like, okay, so this we never done this before. We never cloned a clone. Let's see what happens. Turns out, don't do that. That was the perfect option. Perfect evidence. Don't do that. So so he is licking a slice of pizza, and he says, "Hello, Steve." That's what he calls Doug number 1. He calls him Steve. And so it's like, well, don't worry, we'll take care of him. It'll be fine. He'll help around whenever he can. Of course, number 4 never helps anybody do anything because
he's not there.
He's got the mind of a 3-year-old. And there's a great scene where Doug 1 comes up into the thing and they're all shaving. But number 4 has shaving cream all over his face. It's like, is it safe to let him do that? No, don't worry. We took the blade out. And as soon as they say that, he starts shaving his tongue, which I just thought was a really, really fun way to like just put. And again, I cannot stress this enough. This is where we start to see 4 Michael Keatons on same screen at the same time. And it always seems to me, you can tell there's some kind of, green screen technology from the mid-90s, but the acting is always seamless. They're having conversations with themselves. Like it's hard to do that with 2, let alone 4.
Yeah. And it doesn't take you out of it either, which I think is the goal. I also appreciated that the OG Doug, original Doug, was like, all right, there were 2 rules. No sleeping with my wife and no more Dougs.
No more Dougs. We're done with Dougs.
Capping the amount of Dougs.
So Doug decides with his free time he's going to learn how to go sailing. And he meets Brian Doyle Murray, who runs a little thing like, I'll teach you how to sail type of thing at the marina. Brian Doyle Murray is a great comedic actor from this time, who's Bill Murray's half brother. You'd know him if you saw him. He's the boss in Christmas Vacation. That's where most people know him from. Anyway, in a weird little detail that I don't know why it bugged me, but it did. He's married to Julie Bowen, who was the mom on Modern Family, who at this time was 24, and Brian Doyle Murray was in his late 50s. And I was just like, I don't love that that's an age difference that we just skirt past.
Yes.
Because it is a weird thing that, like, I don't know. I know that those things exist, but it was just a weird thing to, like, he could have been married to anybody, but you chose, let's make this a May December thing, or at least, you know, May October. And it was very odd to me that they were just did it, and like, why not? Anyway, they just say, hey, you know what you should do? You should get your wife to come with us to Catalina. We sail into the harbor at sunset. You make love right there on the boat. It's fantastic. We'll take 2 boats, one for the 2 of us and one for you and your wife, and we'll go together. And he's like, that's a great idea. I think I'm going to go ask her.
Which again, we have enough money for a getaway to Catalina. So.
Right. Excuse me. He does say, hey, let's do this. And she's like, no. Who's going to watch the kids? What do you? No, we both have responsibilities. This is crazy. We can't do it. So Doug says to himself, I'll just go by myself on a 2-day boating excursion to Catalina, a romantic boating trip for me, which I didn't like. I thought there was a point where, like, he's driving home and decides to stop at the Laker game. Like, he just stops at the Laker game, which is a thing. Like, you know, the game's going on. I thought I might just go in, you know, I'll buy a ticket. Why not? And it was a weird thing that he does. So, but he obviously, like, there's other things he likes. And he was like, well, okay, honey, you don't want to go to Catalina with me? Fine. I'm going to go to Vegas by myself. Like, that would make more sense than going on the romantic boat trip by himself, I think. But anyway, while he is gone, again, can't stress this enough, on a romantic boating trip for 2, but for 1.
Which the 2 of them couldn't go because the responsibilities were too much. So he has now also left his wife with all of the responsibilities.
No, because this is the thing. He's left 2 and 3 there.
Oh, that's right. Duh. What am I saying?
So 2 handles all the work. He doesn't have to go to work. And 3 is there to help her with all the things around the house.
I also love, as they're discussing this, that he's going to go on this boat trip. 3 is like, you deserve some time to yourself. Like, it's important.
Yeah. And so I think this is the point where he shows Andy McDowell the finer points of how to make leftovers last longer, with how to wrap things in foil. And it's just it's a scene you just have to watch, because it's like you've never seen Michael Keaton. It's so perfect the way he does it, and her reaction to it is also so perfect. It's like, who are you? But she got really mad at him for wanting to go to Catalina or whatever, and she's so angry at him, and that's why I'm going to go by myself, he says. And the next night, because the script tells her she has to be, she's like, I'm sorry, Doug. It's all my fault. Let's have sex, Doug. And it's just, I feel like your fight seemed like more important than this. But
and they also don't really resolve the fight that they had in the restaurant.
No,
but they do wildly make out. So there is a lot of using, like, sex and sexual behavior as a reward, which is like such the most 90s wife thing in the world. They do laundry and they have sex when their man is like, did something right. That's it.
Yes. You've been a good boy.
Yeah.
That's what that is. But 3 has to pretend to be actual Doug. So he's going to sleep next to her, but she's decided, no, we're going to sleep together. And so he tries to resist as long as he can. But she's so strong. She's a strong woman. Did she work out? And it's like, It's never been that tender before. I've never seen you cry like that. I don't know. I was just so emotional. And so that's what they do there. So she says she wants to go down and get something to eat from. I want chocolate milk and graham crackers, she says. So she goes down to the kitchen. Now, Doug number 2, who's still live up in the mother-in-law suite, there's no beer, there's no nothing for him to eat or drink in the apartment up there. So he decides it's late at night. I'm going to go down to the actual kitchen, see what I can scrounge up to eat because I'm hungry. And Doug number 2 runs into Annie McDowell, who apparently cannot be satiated. Like this woman, she needs it all the time. Apparently,
good on her.
Good on her. Good for her. But she immediately like throws herself at other Doug, and he tries to resist as much as you can when you wind up having sex with a woman on a kitchen counter. It's like, you know, but then they wind up going onto the couch, whatever, during a thunderstorm, and she's like, that was so athletic. I don't know what came over me. So then they're going to go back up to bed, and Doug 2 realizes that Doug 3 is up there, and so he has to try like, come to bed. To realize that you got to make yourself scarce so we can go up there together. But I said, oh, honey, this is wonderful because it's Annie McDowell's voice is just so wonderfully Annie McDowell. Oh, honey, I forgot to shut the windows on the Volvo. Could you do it, honey? Is everything gonna get soaked? And so there's a huge rainstorm. So 2 goes outside to shut the windows on the Volvo. But Doug number 4 has woken up and is very scared of thunder because he's either 3 years old or a dog. And so he tries to find somebody to comfort him by running through the rain and into the house, where he runs into Annie McDowell, who is so mortified and sad that she sent him out there to get all, like, you know, wet and everything. And so let's get those wet clothes off of you. And because also, you know, he's a little boy, sometimes things happen with little boys, and they don't mean for it to happen, but it happens. And she's like, oh my God, Doug again? Okay. Like, which is a weird reaction to an erect penis. But like, if you see an erect penis and your immediate reaction is, okay.
Well, all right. I am bewitched, I suppose.
So this is where Doug number 3 is hiding in the shower. So he sees what has happened. Doug number 2, meanwhile, has been locked outside in the pouring down rain. So Doug number 2, the next day, after all this has happened, wakes up with the flu. So Lance, number 2, he can't go to work. So and I got to go to work. The building inspector's coming. He can't come for another month. I got to go to work. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Everything's going to go to hell because all these condos we're building, the building inspector's coming. I got to go to work. You are going to stay right here, mister, and you're going to get better. And so Rico, number 3, goes to work for him to try and answer all these building inspector questions.
And before he leaves, he turns to Doug number 4 and goes, you take care of him, which I thought was delightful.
Again, all of this is happening while Doug number 1 is away on a romantic boat trip to Catalina for 2, but for 1. And so while he's there, Doug number 3 is trying to answer all these questions about the building specs for these condos they're building. And he doesn't have any of these answers. Although I thought the scene was great. And I thought that there's the building inspector is played by, I can't remember his name, but he's the guy who plays Otho in Beetlejuice, a wonderful comedic actor. And he he keeps asking all these questions. I did think that maybe if he does have all of the memories of original Doug, maybe he should be able to like come up with a fake answer that he knows would placate a building inspector. Because
Yeah.
presumably he's done this kind of thing before. Also, you would think that maybe he would have provided the other guys, Dell and Ted, with the building specs as well. And if he doesn't know the answer off the top of his head, one of them could give the answer. But it's like in the original specs, it called for 2-inch gas lines, but these are only 1 inch. Why? I don't think Doug or Doug number 2 would be able to unilaterally change all of that without being able to tell somebody else who would have that in their notes, who could be able to tell the building inspector. This whole thing, the whole reason why, spoiler alert, Doug gets fired is kind of absurd, because he shouldn't be the only one who's allowed to say this. Now, maybe it's because Doug 3 keeps dipping into another part of the construction to call Doug 2 and say, so he's asking me this question, and then he gets that answer, and it goes back, has to answer another question, that kind of a thing, and keeps doing that. Like, well, maybe he's, you never know.
Usually that means alcohol or drugs, they say.
Right. But he also just say, so somebody tried to save a little money. I'm not saying who, which makes Dell look bad, maybe. But the whole thing was that you got to find somebody else to answer these questions. I'm back in 3 weeks. Everything gets shut down. Everything gets shut down without my say so. Nothing goes forward, and I won't be back here for 3 weeks. So you're going to lose all this time building all these condos and lose all this money. So they fired Doug. Then I was wait a second here. Yeah, Laura had these discussions with. Oh yeah, because she's talking to sick Doug, and sick
Yes.
Doug is Doug number 2, who's not very sensitive, but he's also pissed because he's sick. So it's like, hey, honey, I rearranged everything so you could go to work today to do your, again, remember, she thinks she had a crazy wild night of passion with this husband the night before. She also knows, because she was very sorry about this, that she sent him outside to roll up the windows on the Volvo. She did that, and she feels really guilty about it in the moment. But the next day, when he's obviously sick from probably having to go out and roll up the windows on the Volvo and getting soaking wet, she's like, what do you do? Why are you sick? How dare you be sick? It's a very odd thing that they choose who is in the wrong whenever they want to, when they write the script. And I think she could, because we've already seen her be sympathetic to him having to go outside the following day when he's put 2 and 2 together. You were sorry about it last night. Be sorry about it today that you got him sick. And
also, he was like, you had sex with him 100 times. So like, you should, the first reaction is probably, oh shit, I hope I'm not going to get sick because we have these kids and all of these responsibilities.
Right.
And the next reaction is probably, okay, how do we take care of you without me also then getting sick?
Right.
I'm so mad at you for being sick.
Yeah, I thought you had your big inspection. How dare you stay home with the flu? And basically, and he says, well, I'm sorry. I guess I missed it, honey. Whatever. Guess I got fired. And she's, what? You got fired? And so see, he's very short with her, but he's also sick. Like way sicker than I am.
This is like the most justified his behavior was. Like, you're angry at me for being sick, I think is actually
because you got me sick for sending me outside the pouring rain. Okay. But they have a big fight. She's angry. So she says some things he shouldn't have. And then she wants to talk it out. So she goes out to talk to him because he's messing with stuff in the garage. Well, he's not. 4 is. 4 is like using a hot glue gun to just make something weird in the garage. And she comes up, she doesn't see his face. She just sees him there. And so she does this whole confession about how she's feeling. And also, you always said you're going to fix up this house and you never do anything around here and all this kind of stuff. And it makes me feel blah, 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 blah. And she's like, I just want to know, Doug, every time we have these conversations, you're like a different person. I don't understand. What is it you want? And number 4 says, I want pizza. Give me pizza.
For like a good part of this movie was like, I need an interaction between Andy McDowell or the kids and Doug number 4.
The kids in 4 would have been a really great scene. You could have figured out a way to do that.
It would have been so much fun, but I was like, somebody's got to interact with Doug 4. It's just begging for it. And I liked this. I thought it was fun that
I want pizza.
I want pizza, he says.
Give me pizza.
I need you to tell me what you want. So this, like, she at least is aware enough to realize that it's like he's been a different person, which I appreciate.
Finally, she gets it.
Yeah,
after what is apparently months.
Being an idiot for a really long time. Like, they at least let her come to the conclusion of it. And then the very simple but weighted question of tell me what you want as like an emotional bearing our marriage is on the brink kind of thing, and him just responding that he wants pizza was like, I thought that was delightful.
And then so then Doug shows up after his, by the way, he's had a terrible time on his trip. Turns out Doug gets very seasick out on the actual open ocean. So he's been puking this entire time. Not very romantic, even for a trip for one. So he gets back, having had no fun of his own. Being a selfish prick, but also not being rewarded for it. So he gets home and finds out that we got fired. We, as a group, got fired. And also, well, it's about rule number 1. And so he finds out in turn, first of all, that 3. And then it's like, she's so strong. When that woman wants something, she will not stop. And then 2 was like, yeah, so I did it, whatever. Which is kind of funny. But like, listen, you won't let me, like, I got needs. And then he sits
with my
down.
coworkers, I can't have parties with strange women. Right. I gotta,
He sits down next to Steve. Oh, sorry, sits down next to number 4, who looks at him like, she touched my peppy, Steve. And that's how he finds out that 4 has sex with her. And so that's terrible. This is a horrible thing that's happened. But also, she left you. She's gone. She took the kids. She went to her mother's there in Palm Springs. I'm so sorry, Doug. So then he's like, he has this trying to figure out what to do. And he ends up talking to 4, who says, she says, you never fix stuff. You always say you're going to fix stuff. You never fix stuff. He's like, oh, okay. So then he decides he and his other clones are going to remodel the entire house in a weekend. And to help with him with this, which I honestly think one of my favorite things in the entire movie, is he gets Eugene Levy to come back, because he's like, you get out of here, you're fired, because he shows up late to a job site, like 2 hours late. He's like, get out of here, you're fired. I want to see you again. I'm finding a new concrete guy. And then that was Doug number 2. So Doug number 1 hires him to come over and help him with, fix his driveway and lay some concrete for a patio. And it's like, I'm really sorry I spoke to you that way. It was unfair. I still think you're the best concrete man in Los Angeles. So you said you had your own guy. Thank you. I appreciate that. You said you had your own guys? Yeah, here they are. And Eugene Levy looks over and sees a table full of Michael Keaton clones. Blinks. all right, let's get going. And nothing doesn't faze him at all. He's like, sure, why not? Of course. I thought that was really great. But then during the whole remodel, he has a very long heart-to-heart with Michael Keaton, number 3. I don't remember exactly what about, but like he was able to bare his soul and all this kind of stuff. It is a good little scene between the two of them. I thought that was a really nice little moment. Like give Michael Keaton 3 a chance to like just be an honest human being as well, without any of the other stuff that kind of verges into that kind of character playing. But they end up finishing this whole house, fully doing it. And then he goes and sees the kids over at Grandma's house, and because they're back from Palm Springs now, and he sees, and he was like, before you go to work, just please come to the house. I just want to show you something. That's what she does, and it's fully done. There's like a huge pergola and a koi pond in the backyard. It's way overblown. It's like it's too much. Impossible to have been done in the time they did.
Yeah.
Right.
But she even says, like, how did you pull it off? And he was like, it was a miracle, which I think was like an allusion to the miracle clones.
Yeah. Some of the guys helped out, and we did all right. So then she says, I'm actually going to start my own contracting business. I mean, how hard could it be? I have all that experience and people contacts. He gets to go in for business for himself. That's a nice little thing to happen. And then
that ruins the plot of the movie.
Right.
He said, I'm going to start my own contracting business. And I was like, why didn't you do that from the get-go?
Because I would say he doesn't know himself well enough to realize that he has that kind of power within him. He had to get to know all different sides of himself. This is all bullshit. But I it's all bullshit. But I mean, like, I think that like you could figure out a way to like, okay, if you explain it, you have to read between the lines, Kate. Obviously, the Doug we meet at the beginning is frazzled. He has no real self-confidence. He has to realize that deep down inside him, there are at least three different people, one of whom is developmentally disabled, but they make up all the different sides of him. And when he realizes that is within him, then he can do anything. See, there you go. I solved it.
No solution considered outside of cloning to the problem.
No.
Just gonna throw it. Andy McDowell never suggests maybe you should go out on your own and I'll be having a second income, so it'll be nope.
No, not at all. Anyway, so that solves that problem, belatedly, I will admit. And then she goes off to work, and we hear this. Like, I don't know if this mid-60s convertible was in the garage the whole time, but it pulls out, and number 2 is driving, number 3 is in the passenger seat, number 4 is in the back with a mountain of snacks. And like, so where are you guys gonna go? I don't know. We thought maybe Florida. So that they're just striking out on their own with no social security numbers, no actual ID, nothing. Like they're just vacant human beings. Completely, they're going to leave. And so they say goodbye and everything, and it's it's fine. They go, they leave, and everything's all right. I mean, obviously they can't stay there, so they got to go somewhere. I guess why not Florida? And there's a weird little epilogue that is in the form of a letter written from 3 to Doug about how they started.
Like, you're just assuming he's going to be the guy to open it, I guess.
Well, no, he's like, hi, this is Rico, your long lost cousin. I don't know how he would actually open the whole thing, but he wouldn't say, hello, Doug, this is number 3, the second clone you made of yourself. I think he probably wouldn't put in the body of the letter. But so he says that they opened up a pizzeria on Miami Beach called 3 Guys from Nowhere Pizza. And Lance, number 2, is the business side of it. And he gets to meet all the customers, and we find him canoodling with bikinied women. And of course, Rico is the guy who's the chef. And number 4, oh, Doug, you'd be so proud of him. He's got 2 jobs. He's a paper boy in the morning, and at night he delivers pizzas for us. And we just see him throwing a pizza onto a lawn because he's
tossing it like he's slinging newspapers.
Because that's how he would think you would deliver pizzas. And that's the end of the movie. And I would think, who gave them a loan? And again, I can't stress this enough. They don't have Social Security cards.
Maybe they have Doug's Social Security stuff.
All 3 of them have the same Social Security number?
That's where it gets us. They also have no money.
No money.
They have no, This isn't good.
How did they pay? I mean, how did they just I mean, again, I guess we can assume all this stuff happened, but it just leaves us the questions. Did Doug get them credit cards in his name? Like, I don't understand. Like, I don't know how they paid for the gas to get from California to Florida. That's not a short trip.
I mean, I would assume he had some financial wherewithal. At least Doug too would, because he was out and about in the world. But also, why didn't he start a construction company? The thing he knows and was wildly successful at.
I guess it's because they drew straws, and Rico won because he wanted to be a chef. So.
Also, I don't know if I would be so blatant to call it 3 guys from nowhere. I think that's going to beg more questions if you had just called it like Mario's. That feels like you're asking for issues.
They should have called it Doug's, but Dougs, then the apostrophe, meaning all the Dougs own it. See, if it Doug's, you could have done that. There's that one moment where they're driving away from the house, and Laura's at a stoplight, and she looks over and sees all of them, and she's like, you know how you're really in love, kids? Because you see them in the face of everybody you meet. Yeah, you're also.
They went out of their way to put that in the film.
Yep, didn't need to. Didn't just makes Laura into somebody else so crazy. It's just like, you know. And I need the there's every time you watch a movie like this, there are implications to what else. Like, who else? This cannot be the only person in out there that Dr. Leeds is doing this to, which means in Los Angeles, like, there are people all over the place who have clones running around. Like, it would have been they never would have done this. It would have complicated things for the normies, but for me, it would have been amazing if there had been a news report of clones being found elsewhere in Los Angeles that would have made Doug be like, okay, seriously, we got to batten down the hatches because this stuff is happening all over the place, and if we get found out, that's no good for us. I don't know, but
they did say case studies, so it shouldn't be too rampant. Right, because they're not
But then why does he just choose the guy who happens to be working on his construction project?
Bro.
I mean, I don't know. There's got to be test subjects who sign up for this kind of stuff.
There at least needs to be interactions with other clones. Yeah.
So yeah, that's it. It is. Michael Keaton does some of the most tightrope type acting you're gonna in the scenes where he plays himself, and himself. It's impossible to say how much I respect that work as an actor, to be able to do all of that, to be able to hit your mark and have there's wonderful scenes where Doug 1 is saying something to Doug 2 and Doug 3, and they both react to what he's saying in the moment.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, absolutely. It's totally, yeah, sure, you got a boss. But they say it at the same time, and it feels like you would if you were talking to 2 people and they were both responding to you in the affirmative. One wouldn't wait for the other one to say something. You'd just say, yeah, sure, got it. But the way that they do it is just so well done.
Even the scene of the first clone realizing that he's the clone.
Yeah.
I thought was so brilliantly done. I thought that was really, really good, because he plays both sides of that, and at that point they're like the same, and it did not feel like jump cut to jump cut. Like it felt like he was talking to. They were trying to figure out which one of. No, you're the clone. No, you're the clone. Was like actually really well done when he like had the revelation. Felt very real. Like this whole thing is built on the back of Michael Keaton for whatever it's worth.
Yeah, and it's worth a lot to me. Like I don't know if there was another actor in Hollywood at the time that could have played this in the same way. You could have had like Robin Williams, but he would have been over the top.
Yeah,
he wouldn't have been able to resist the temptation of doing it way over the top. Even playing number 4, like I don't feel like it ever really verges into like caricature or I'm trying to play the stereotype. Michael Keaton is honestly playing this person. And it's really, 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 really well done. And I think that Harold Ramis does an amazing job making all these scenes work together. There's just I can't specifically say what it is, but there's just something missing to the whole thing. And maybe it is that it seems to be entirely disconnected from outside. Like it's completely enclosed. Like none of the decisions that happen here affect anything else elsewhere. You never get the sense that there's really a danger that they're ever going to get really found out.
That to me was the thing that felt not like a miss, but you would expect the movie to go to someone finds out about this. Like there's got to be a revelation that this Andy McDowell, you didn't even have one of the kids like questioning it, and then people dismissing it because they're just a kid. Like there should have been something with that.
Pretty sure the little girl has 3 scenes in the movie. Like she's barely even there. She's there to present another problem for Doug to deal with, as opposed to being an actual kid. I would have loved to have seen yeah, exactly. I would have loved to have seen the thing of like she's always asking her father Doug to read her a story at night, and he doesn't have the time. He wants to, but he can't. He's disconnected. He gets a phone call late. Like you got to make sure you're on the job site at 6 a.m. tomorrow, whatever. And it always kind of pulls him away, and he feels bad about it. But then she really bonds with number 3, or honestly, even better, number 2, who's able to who finds himself kind of roped into having to be dad for one night and winds up like being really good at it. Like he's still gruff. He's still a macho dude, but the kids love him because he's willing to play with them a little bit. Like that would have been a really cool way of like kind of showing different sides of each person. Like, or let's say Michael Keaton 1 is the football coach for the rest of the season, but he can't make it to one of the things. So number 3 has to go and coach the game that day. And he puts in crazy like trick plays that he likes because of the aesthetic reasons for it. And they wind up winning the game. Like they've never won a game before, but because number 3 is doing it, like we wouldn't think he'd be good at it, but somehow he is good at it. Like if you would just put some of that in there, I think it might have been like, it would have given us more of like a feel good thing to kind of watch his break. Because honestly, Doug is kind of a selfish prick.
Yeah.
Like he's a good dude, but he's kind of a selfish prick. And it'd be nice to like see a lot of those qualities smoothed over in different areas by the clones you wouldn't think would be able to do that.
I think with the kids too, you could have done something really fun of like, that's not my dad. And like everybody else being like, of course, but because of like the paternal bond with the, like them knowing like, that's not my dad, and everybody else being like, oh, crazy children. They're thinking like there could be some really, really, really fun stuff. So some missed opportunities, but like I think as far as whether I get the flick out of here or keep it in, like I think I keep it.
Yeah,
like you
have to keep it if only for Michael Keaton's stuff.
Yeah, he was really good.
So
and recognizing that at the time this technology was not something that would be assumed. Like this didn't feel like, we talked about it in wrestling, right? Like the gimmick determining the match instead of going the other way around. Like, this didn't feel like the special effect determined the movie, even though it was so integral to the story. Like, this, it didn't overpower it at any point. It just felt like it was in the movie.
Right. I totally agree. It's kind of a miracle. It's like when you watch the original Jurassic Park now and you go,
yeah,
Jesus, that's for 1993. That's amazing special effects. And for this, it doesn't feel like it's amazing. It just feels like it's, I didn't feel like I was watching special effects. You know what I mean? Which sometimes when you see like a split screen in a movie from that era, you can totally tell where the line is. Like that's not at all the case here. So yeah, I'd definitely keep it in. But it isn't as great as I remember it, but still, Michael Keaton, man, he's still one of my favorites. So yeah, there we go. We're both going to keep this in. Who knows when we're going to do next time? I don't. Well, hold on. Wait a second. Maybe for some time in October, we're going to have to do Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers, which is a thing that I sent you that I found, which I don't think is a horror movie per se, but I mean, I feel like it's got to be pretty bad and weird. So maybe we'll have to do that along the way. I'm not sure. Yeah, and I don't know if you saw that the trailer dropped. You're not going to be able to watch it, but maybe I'll set you up having to watch Hocus Pocus 2, and I will watch the new Winnie the Pooh slasher film because that looks crazy. Yeah, so yeah, we'll figure out what we'll do from here. But until then, please watch us over at Fightful doing our crazy things. I'm gonna hopefully not be a sick bag of crap.
But you will be cloned into various characters.
I will be cloned into somebody who is healthy.
That's right.
Yeah. And
into Alex Finn Balor and to Alex Linda. We have a whole cast of characters over there.
That's true. If I get cloned and like just all of a sudden clone number 5 is just Linda.
That's
like,
right.
all the time, and I can't stop it. That would make certain people, some certain fans of ours happy. Yeah, but I guess until next week when we do, I'm not sure. We'll let you know next week whether we're going to get the flick out of here. Goodbye, everybody.
RESPECT. Click the subscribe button and find out what it means to me. Nah, that doesn't have a ring to it. But if you like videos about real news stories that are funny, stupid, or weird, subscribe now.